The traditional slasher archetype is built on a foundation of unfeeling malice or overwhelming power. These villains are often tragic figures or supernatural forces, entities whose strength feels like an inevitable part of their nature. But the entity occasionally selects a different kind of predator. There is a specific kind of threat that comes from facing a monster driven entirely by pathetic systemic cowardice. Renbu Matsumata's descent began in the neon-lit underbelly of Tokyo. Although he was born with the explosive power of a sumo prodigy, he prioritized the weight of gold over the sacred traditions of the ring. He spent his nights gambling and fighting in brutal private matches for the Yakuza, until the Japan Sumo Association discovered his extracurricular violence and stripped him of his rank. Cast out and starving, Renbu drifted to the west, finding work in the cage of a fringe MMA circuit.
He functioned as a freak show act, used to squash inexperienced fighters for bloodthirsty crowds. When he was finally forced to face a legitimate heavyweight champion, he reached his lowest point. Terrified of a fair fight, Renbu bribed a kitchen hand to lace his opponent's water with a neurotoxin. As the champion collapsed, Renbu stood over him in a mock victory pose. But the cheers he expected were replaced by the cold fog of the entity. It offered him a bargain he couldn't refuse: an eternity of opponents who would never have the chance to fight back. This narrative of the rigged match is the foundation of the sumo's design. His toolkit is a mechanical extension of his cowardice, designed to ensure that the survivors never have a fair chance to escape. Real-world sumo is a highly regulated tradition defined by discipline and respect. Two titans meet in a ring where the rules are absolute. Renbu took the physical tools of this sport and weaponized them into the tactics of a bully. His Daishi charge is his primary tool for closing distance. He drops his 115% movement speed into a crouch, sacrificing mobility for a high-speed, linear burst of momentum. The charge turns Renbu's mass into a projectile. If he hits a survivor, they are thrown back several meters. If that survivor collides with a wall or a solid object, the impact results in the loss of a health state. Even a missed charge provides him with information. When Renbu hits a wall, he triggers an 8-meter shockwave that forces nearby survivors to scream, revealing their locations to him instantly. When his power gauge is full, he can perform the Thundering Slam. This 12-meter radius attack applies a 15% hindered penalty to survivors, shatters all dropped pallets in the area, and forces the entity to block window vaults for 10 seconds. These mechanics reinforce the lore. Renbu relies on overwhelming, unearned mass rather than the precision of a hunt. He wins by taking away the survivor's ability to navigate the environment. Survival in the fog often depends on the unwritten rules of the trial. Survivors rely on the safety of pallets and the hope of an altruistic rescue to prolong the game. Renbu's history with the Yakuza reflects a life lived by breaking rules, not following them. This systemic corruption is represented in his unique perks, which are designed to dismantle the survivor's standard defensive options. His perk Shokiri represents a total lack of patience for the fair play of a chase. After damaging a generator, he breaks pallets faster, and if a survivor manages to stun him, the entity shatters that pallet immediately. Torinashi punishes the core mechanic of teamwork. When a survivor rescues his obsession from a hook, that rescuer becomes exposed, allowing Renbu to down them with a single blow. The most suffocating tool in his kit is Iotoko Uru. Survivors simply existing within his terror radius without being chased receive a stacking penalty to repair, healing, and sabotage speeds. These perks create a mechanical environment where the act of playing the game correctly results in a direct penalty. The survivors are bullied out of their traditional strategies. We see the status Renbu desperately craves in his ceremonial Yokozuna outfit. The heavy braided rope and the pale, dusted skin are visual mocks of the rank he was stripped of for his dishonorable conduct. This physical presence is reimagined in his Anatolian oil wrestler cosmetic. The slick, dark oil and amber glow of his eyes highlight his transition from a professional athlete to a desperate, violent brawler on the global fringe. His memento mori is a display of pure, unadulterated brutality. After hoisting the survivor up, he delivers a series of lightning-fast open palm slaps before crushing their spine in a saba-ori grip. The final gesture is the most telling. He tosses salt onto the broken body of the survivor, weaponizing a ritual of purification to taunt someone who no longer has the capacity to fight back. Renbu's capacity for terror comes from his dishonorable nature. While traditional slashers rely on supernatural power or inherent malice, Renbu's presence in the trial feels uniquely oppressive because it is rooted in petty human cowardice. Every mechanic, from the palate-shattering slams to the penalties for unhooking, translates his failure as an athlete into a specialized form of anti-looping oppression. He represents a different corner of the horror genre. He isn't a cosmic entity or a possessed killer. He is a man who was given the power to make sure the rules he once hated no longer apply to him. The Sumo suggests that a coward with the power to break the rules is more dangerous than any supernatural slasher. By trapping survivors in a trial where their skills are systematically penalized, the game forces them to confront a monster